Coming up next,
It never made sense to me at all.
why Audrey Griffin didn't stand a chance.
He's a vicious animal.
Something was very off that night. He was so aggressive.
The wife of the man who murdered the 19-year-old
He was on his way to kill you.
reveals his life of violence.
They should have put him in jail after breaching his second AVO.
That's next on 60 Minutes.
Look at any photo of Audrey Griffin and you see a beautiful, smart young woman. The 19-year-old Navy recruit had plenty of friends and plenty of life ahead of her. Until the unthinkable. 6 weeks ago, she was murdered as she walked to a friend's home after a night out. Audrey didn't know her attacker. She was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. The killer, Adrian Torrens, was a violent man who opportunistically decided to cause maximum harm. Tonight, Torrens' wife, Michelle, gives a chilling insight into this evil man and reveals why this crime should never have happened in the first place. It's an unbearable thought, being at the place your child was brutally murdered. But for Audrey Griffin's mum and dad, Kathleen and Trevor, a dirty creek bed on the side of a busy road is where they feel close to their daughter.
I see a beautiful young girl grow up into a kind, outgoing, caring young lady. As a father, it made me so proud. I truly love that girl.
What is it that torments you the most right now?
What Audrey went through in the murder keeps me awake at night.
And so that's for me right now is just knowing what she was going through. What were her last thoughts? Knowing she fought him.
It's a terrible thought of your child in the hands of that man.
Scary. Fighting for a life. Imagine fighting for your life.
It's been 6 weeks since Audrey's body was found at Erina Creek on the New South Wales Central Coast. Police declared it was a case of misadventure. But from the start, the 19-year-old's parents instinctively knew their daughter's death was no accident. Shockingly, they say it was their own investigating that pushed detectives to catch her killer, Adrian Torrens. Tonight, we can reveal the violent criminal's horrid history and the terrible twist of fate that put Audrey in his path as he hunted, in the dead of night, his wife, Michelle.
I've been living in fear for the past year, looking over my shoulder. On the night of Audrey's death, he called me 12 times and left voice messages, and all of them threatening to kill me.
The most tragic part of this awful story is that Audrey should never have died. Why was such a dangerous man walking the streets? Why did two grieving parents have to fight so hard for the truth? And how was Adrian Torrens able to get away with the murder for a month while he continued terrorising his wife?
He should have been locked up. None of us should be in this position. Audrey should not be a statistic.
It was Saturday night, the 22nd of March. Audrey was having a great night out, farewelling her mates before starting a career in the Navy. When she left the Gosford Hotel in the early hours of Sunday morning, she planned to get an Uber, but instead started walking back to her friend's place. Audrey had no idea Adrian Torrens was following her. The serial offender had spent the night harassing his wife Michelle with threatening voicemails. And even though an AVO was in place to protect Michelle from him, it seems Torrens was on his way to her house nearby. And in his words, what were his threats?
He would love to rip my head off and he was going to come and kill me. Yeah, it was pretty scary.
He was on his way to kill you?
I think so.
Do you believe him, that he's on his way to you?
While I was listening to it, I do believe it, and the fear was in me. I would never know if he was just like trying to intimidate me or call my bluff or whatever.
Did you think with his tone and the way he was that something was off that night?
Something was very off that night. He was so aggressive. Yeah, very hostile. Just in his voice.
Despite her fear, Michelle says her husband had threatened her so many times before, she'd lost faith in the police to respond quickly. So she didn't call them that night. If only she had, officers might have been able to intercept Torrens before he killed Audrey. Knowing what you know now,
Yeah.
do you wish you did call police?
Well, I guess I do. I should have.
How hard is that to digest and to...
It is awful. Like this morning I got up and I saw the sunrise and I thought that is something that Audrey will never have. Like the luxury of. Just the simple things in life.
Audrey's mum, Kathleen, was in Sydney. When she woke up on Sunday morning and checked the location of Audrey's phone, as she always did, she quickly realised Audrey had never made it to her friend's place.
And I saw the location. And automatically, obviously, it alarmed me because I knew exactly where that location was.
Why were you alarmed?
Because it was at Erina Creek.
Everyone was worried. Audrey's friend reported her missing to police. And while her parents were on their way here to start searching, terrible clues were being discovered.
I received a phone call from my girlfriend's husband that had decided to go down there on foot. He said he'd found her bag.
It was a worrying development, but it was about to get much worse.
Well, as I pulled up, the police pulled up at the same time just in front of me. I got out of the car, we see Audrey's stuff. We walked down probably 20 metres and we could spot a body in the water. So I spotted that. I knew it was Audrey straight away because I could tell. Look, I ID'd Audrey as well. Yeah, it's not something anyone would really should go for.
The next impossible task was going to view their precious daughter's body and say goodbye. When you go to the morgue that day, what had police told you?
Misadventure. She has
Drowning.
a drowning.
It's drowning.
She had scratches down to one side of her arm,
She had a big, massive welt on her arm as well.
a bruising, and down to one side. So they said that she may have just fallen.
Why didn't you accept that, Kathleen?
Because I know my daughter. She's an ocean swimmer. She was up at 5 o'clock every morning going to the gym. It just never made sense to me at all.
It wasn't just a parent's instinct. Kathleen and Trevor believe it was blatantly obvious there was something sinister about Audrey's death.
Kathleen spotted it straight away. Her nails were full of mud, everyone, jam-packed. Didn't you? Straight away you spotted it.
And that's not something that you go to see when you want to say goodbye to your child, but I just knew from day one that she just didn't look at peace. And I kind of said to Trevor, how did you feel when you saw Audrey? Did you feel that she was at peace? And he said, no, I didn't.
Her face looked stressed, didn't it? Really, really.
I knew from the beginning there was something wrong.
No parent should have to fight as hard as Audrey's mum and dad did to find the truth. 3 days after she died, it wasn't detectives, but one of Kathleen's friends who found Audrey's phone at the creek.
They'd been telling us that they'd been going down there every day, but nobody went down there at low tide. They only checked the waters at high tide. So it was sitting there in the mud between a tree where her belongings were.
Audrey's parents also couldn't believe police never made a public appeal for information in the days following her death.
I go to the police station on the Thursday to say, why isn't anything in the media? Why isn't anything in the paper? Why isn't anyone on the Central Coast aware of what's happened? And then the following day they released that Audrey, you know, a young girl's been found at Erina Creek. But it wasn't until I went in there saying, why? 4 days later.
How desperate do you become?
I decide that I'm going to go door knocking. So I go to the other side of the river. I go to the brewery down the road. I went to the BP. The BP didn't even know about it. The house across the road that I went to and I knocked on their doors, they said that no one had been there.
While Kathleen was begging police to do more, Audrey's killer, Adrian Torrens, was on the loose. He spent 3 more weeks harassing his wife, Michelle, who didn't know that while she'd survived that night, Torrens had killed Audrey instead.
He continues to harass you on 9 different occasions.
Yeah. He rang me up a few times and said, see what you've created. You f***ing mole. I'm going to get you. So there were a few voice messages like that.
Coming up, Adrian Torrens' lengthy criminal history and the missed opportunity to send this serial offender to prison just months before he killed Audrey.
How can the justice system keep letting a man go like this after offence after offence after offence?
When 19-year-old Audrey Griffin was murdered by Adrian Torrens 6 weeks ago, it shocked and outraged the country. But there was one person who wasn't surprised. The killer's wife, Michelle.
I've been living in fear for the past year, looking over my shoulder. I never know when he's going to actually do what he says he's going to do when he threatens. He can be very unpredictable.
You look so happy.
Yeah. It was a happy day.
But it wasn't always so scary. When Michelle married Torrens in 2022, she thought she was in safe hands.
What was he like back then?
Very funny, charming, charismatic, loving. We were always together 24 hours, 7 days a week.
Michelle says it didn't take long, though, for Torrens to turn violent and temperamental, a man she didn't recognise.
I could see a change and it would just flip. It would just change automatically. Like, I could never predict it when it was going to happen. But yeah, his face would change, his demeanour would change all in a second. And yeah, it was pretty scary.
She says their relationship became unbearable just before Easter last year, and the couple split up.
That was the night that he kicked the wall next to me and threw something at me and blocked my way. He was in a big rage, and I was trying to console him, and I just couldn't console him. It was beyond anger.
Michelle went to police and an apprehended violence order was put in place to protect her. But just a few weeks later, Torrens breached it by leaving his wife a barrage of vile voicemail messages.
He called me 34 times, left 24 threatening voice messages.
Some of those messages, I am on my way down, you're a f***ing mole, I am going to end your f***ing reign.
Yeah.
Another one he said, your time is over, Michelle, I told you. What does he mean by that?
He probably wanted to kill me.
And when you would hear that rage in his voice...
It would make me so sick and nervous.
That awful feeling only got more frightening for Michelle while she waited for police to catch up with Torrens. It took them 5 months to track him down.
And I was ringing every day, asking if they'd found him yet to issue the AVO.
And what are they saying to you every time you call?
That they couldn't find him. And, yeah, after a while I just got sick of being nervous and sick every time I rang. So I stopped eventually.
What was your fear while in
That
that
he could
during
be
that fight?
anywhere at any time. I wouldn't know where he was. He could be lurking around my place. I honestly don't know if he was capable of killing or if he would, if he was just saying it to intimidate me.
Michelle didn't realise she had even more reason to be scared of her husband. She was yet to discover the true extent of his lengthy criminal past. There were drink driving and drug offences. Back in 2019, Torrens assaulted his then partner, who had an AVO out against him. He stomped on her chest and broke her arm, while threatening to kill her with a knife. Then, in 2020, Torrens was jailed for a slew of crimes, including theft, fraud, assault, intimidation, and twice breaching an AVO protecting the same partner. Over the years, he also broke multiple community corrections orders.
He was a man that I didn't know, that he didn't tell me that. I knew that there were assaults with, pub fights and things like that, but I never knew that there was domestic violence towards women.
In January this year, Adrian Torrens was convicted of harassing Michelle and breaching the AVO that was meant to keep her safe. The judge sentenced him to a community corrections order instead of sending him to prison after he completed a drug and alcohol rehabilitation program. But clearly, this man didn't learn his lesson because 3 months later, he killed Audrey Griffin. The judge had a choice when sentencing Adrian, to put him into jail or to let him back out.
Yeah.
Do you have a message for that judge?
Yeah, you shouldn't have let him back out. Just someone's life has been taken because he was walking the streets. And there's a mum that's grieving out there that's lost her daughter.
How can the justice system keep letting a man go like this after offence after offence after offence? It's outrageous. It's outrageous that he can walk the streets after doing so many offences over the years.
Why was he out? Why was he let out?
The government are too weak, and the justice system. It's as if they're breeding monsters.
Audrey's mum and dad, Kathleen and Trevor, can't understand how anyone, let alone a judge, could have thought Adrian Torrens deserved freedom.
I'm not talking just on behalf of my daughter, I'm talking on behalf of the community. Why did they feel that he should be allowed to walk the streets?
What adds to these parents' pain is that police at first mistakenly declared Audrey's death was misadventure. They say the homicide squad should have taken over the case much sooner, especially after learning the killer was spotted back at the crime scene 5 days after Audrey's body was found.
A girlfriend of mine is driving to work at 5 o'clock in the morning, heading towards Sydney at the entrance road, and sees a man at 5 a.m. in the morning with a red singlet and white shorts and a white stick poking around. She then calls the police and reports what she's seen.
At the same spot of the creek where Audrey's body was found?
Correct.
That description is a perfect match for what Torrens was wearing on the night Audrey was killed. But it took police more than 3 weeks to piece it all together. The breakthrough came on the 17th of April. Audrey's mum says she'd been begging investigators to show her every piece of CCTV that captured her daughter that night. It was when detectives were trawling through footage they'd collected weeks earlier that they made a sickening realisation. A man had been following Audrey on her way home. Police released this image and asked the public to come forward with information. The next day, Torrens' wife, Michelle, did just that, revealing he'd been threatening to kill her on the same night Audrey was murdered.
Yeah, I was scared. I just kept on double locking the doors and just checking all the time. I kept the dogs inside as my alert, my alarm. Every time I came home from work, I got this sick feeling of icicles in my stomach that he might be lurking around in my house or in the backyard.
With Torrens firmly in their sights, detectives tapped his phone. And it didn't take long for them to get the proof they needed. The killer rang a friend and confessed. Police nabbed him on the 21st of April and called Kathleen and Trevor straight to the station.
That moment where police tell you that they've arrested a man over your daughter's death.
It was like she died again. It opened up all the wounds.
So I said, has he said that he's done anything to Audrey? And they said, we haven't been able to speak to him yet because he's sleeping. But we have enough evidence with the DNA from underneath Audrey's nails and that there's other people come forward since. We've got enough to be able to arrest him.
He's followed her from Gosford, where he's going to his ex-partner's house, turned up in Gosford to create havoc. And they've just spotted maybe Audrey walking home and chose this different target.
Torrens would only spend 3 days behind bars before he took his own life and took away some crucial answers for Audrey's already defeated parents.
Do you find it hard to accept that you will never know the why?
Absolutely.
That don't mean he's an animal. He's an animal, this man. It was always going to happen, sooner or later.
Yeah, but it shouldn't have.
It shouldn't have happened. If there is a hell, I hope he rots in it.
But for Michelle, it's not that simple. Was it relief or sadness or everything in between?
Everything in between.
What did you feel more of?
Honestly, I don't know. As the days went by, I started feeling a bit more safer. But yeah, the conflicting emotions were very, conflicting that day. I never knew that the man I loved was a monster and could do something like that.
Yeah, hi Dimity, how are you?
How and why this terrible tragedy could happen is a question that needs to be answered.
No, that's okay. Thanks for giving us your time.
After the break, the New South Wales Police Commissioner.
Could this been better, more perfect? Yes. But did we catch a killer? Yes.
It was a proud day for the New South Wales Police Commissioner last Friday, when more than 300 new cops were welcomed into the force. But not everything about Karen Webb's job is a cause for celebration. She knows when things go wrong, the buck stops with her. And when it comes to the investigation into the murder of 19-year-old Audrey Griffin, the top cop has serious questions to answer.
I think it's important to be transparent about our role, our investigation, because the community deserves to know. I also want to take the opportunity to say, as a mother and as a woman, that my heart breaks for that family, and I can't imagine what they're going through. So it's important that they hear from me about the work that has been done to catch a killer.
Was it a mistake for your officers to come out so early and so publicly and say that Audrey died of misadventure?
Well, that's based on the medical pathology advice. The post-mortem didn't suggest any foul play. There's no evidence that she was strangled, there's no evidence that she was sexually assaulted, and there's no evidence of trauma. So they really didn't have a lot to go on other than a post-mortem that said misadventure.
But they were wrong, weren't they?
In what way? That
she was murdered.
That's right, but they had an instinct, as cops do, that something wasn't right, that it wasn't as simple as misadventure, and they kept at it.
If there was such concern and suspicions, why wasn't the homicide squad brought in immediately?
Well, certainly the local detectives have consulted with the homicide squad, and they've been available for consultancy ever since.
Do you not think they should have been brought in sooner on the ground?
I certainly have an office full of detectives at Brisbane Water. We've interviewed over 60 witnesses, so 22 sources of CCTV. Could this been better, more perfect? Yes. But did we catch a killer? Yes.
When did Adrian Torrens become a suspect?
The day that we identified him on the CCTV, we didn't know who he was. That was circulated for identification.
Your officers were going through that security footage because Audrey's mum had pleaded with them to see it for herself, make a compile so she could retrace her daughter's last steps. So could it have been a case that if Audrey's mum hadn't pushed the police, your officers may not have gone back and seen it so carefully and actually realised that Audrey had been followed that night?
Well, they were going back through the CCTV. So, the mum obviously wanted us to do as much as we can. I completely understand that.
Torrens' wife called in the next day and identified him for police. Mm-hmm. How critical was Michelle's report to having her husband arrested?
Someone that knew him so well and could identify him rather than I think it might be. And that's gold for detectives. On
the night of Audrey's death, Michelle was getting death threats from Adrian Torrens. She says she didn't call police immediately because she'd lost faith that they would come quick enough.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that.
Is it hard to hear, though, Commissioner, that perhaps this death could have been avoided if Michelle had the faith in police?
Well, can I say, we wouldn't be in this position, I wouldn't be having this conversation with you, Audrey wouldn't be dead if he had been held in custody. He should have been locked up. A community corrections order for someone who has a violent history is no answer. And that exposed Audrey and others to risk.
How do we fix the problem?
Well, I think soft sentences, have to be looked at, and obviously they're decisions for the government. But can I say, as the police commissioner, I'm certainly frustrated because a get-out-of-jail-free card is not the answer for people like Torrens.
It's one of many reasons Audrey's parents feel so let down.
If we've failed that family in any way, then I apologise.
You say, if we failed this family. Do you think there were shortfalls or not?
It's still an active investigation and you're really not going to know the full picture until the whole picture is together.
So will there be a review and investigation into what's happened here?
Of course. The homicide are already conducting a review and there will be ongoing reviews. None of us should be in this position. Audrey should not be a statistic. We haven't given up on Audrey and we won't.
We should, as women, be able to walk home safely.
We should. Absolutely, we should.
The Commissioner has promised to meet Audrey's mum and dad, Kathleen and Trevor. It'll be a tough conversation about an issue they want everyone to take seriously.
Let's hopefully her death has made some change in the system.
You shouldn't have taken your daughter's death, really.
No, it shouldn't. But this animal shouldn't have been on the streets either. So, we shall see.
It's not going to stop here.
You do it for her.
It's definitely not going to stop here. And I'm hoping I get the strength to keep going.
Hello, I'm Dimity Clancey. Thanks for watching 60 Minutes Australia. Subscribe to our channel now for brand new stories and exclusive clips every week. And don't miss out on our extra minute segments and full episodes of 60 Minutes on 9now.com.au and the 9Now app.